Here, a little bit better view of this floodplain out to the river, which lies beyond those first row of hills. This is interesting. It's like a little development here of new buildings. Maybe just providing much nicer housing for the folks that live and work these fields. Can only hope that somehow, some way, this lifestyle will be preserved against the onslaught. Several of these monoliths, and there must be hundreds if not thousands in this area, would, if by themselves stood in some other country, would become a national monument. I may be getting into that town, Shawan. All these buildings look like they've been built in the last 5 or 10 years, giving these folks much more comfortable environs to live in than they had before. Warmer, more secure, etc. Secure from weather and that sort of thing. Imagine this is your view. How many wealthy people in the world, were they to know about it, would come here and buy a place right on this spot, put up the house they wanted with all of the features they wanted, and enjoy this view and this lifestyle. Just strolling through the far end of this town. I think this town sits nestled in a cup of karst peaks, and at one end opens up onto the river, but it otherwise leaves, because it's in this cup formation, otherwise leaves this whole pocket, if you will, quiet. I've seen chickens nestle down in little pockets of dirt that they've created themselves. Another view from the front doorstep on the other side of this pocket, if you will. What a place to live, eh? Not exactly sure where I go. The road is ended here. Here, a well-designed irrigation trench that brings water down from somewhere. See, these are little oranges on this tree. It may be that either the tree's young and or the oranges are young and the plastic helps accelerate the growth of each. And there, I think, are bigger forms of those family burial tombs, if you will, where the remains are placed. And if you look up the hillside, there are more. All around, occasionally, the sound of the horns of those big boats explode. But if Xingping, theoretically, allegedly has been around for 1700 years, how long has this community been functioning? As I look at these, you can see that it's rounded on the left side. Obviously there are two, what's his faces there? Interesting. Are these mounds older versions of those burial plots? And is that a recent one, or one that at least has shown current reverence? Apparently so. And all along here appears to be a buried lead or iron pipe. Yeah, I think these fruit are the ones that if you let them dry and compress, they end up looking like those dried peaches. But here the pipe's broken, so the system must have been replaced with something else. So I'm starting up into another little valley, which should prove to be fun. The old man pointed back that way almost as though that peak were a monument, which I Can well imagine it might be. Interesting, here's some old plastic piping that's rotted out. And down beneath me you can hear a stream, so this is probably sucking water off to take to a higher elevation. Interesting in such a hard-working community that they have lined the trail with these rocks and continue to maintain it on a regular basis. Okay, the trail is hooking off to the right, which ironically might bring me up to a little divide that overlooks the last little canyon, for lack of a valley, that I was in. Maybe these nice natural walls, rock walls that they create, are just to keep the rock out of the pathway over time. Okay, I've climbed up way up above on top of the terracing. And I'm now looking back down on the river on the same side that I was at in that earlier canyon, but much higher and to the left of it. It's interesting to look at these stones way up here on the top of these karst peaks, because they still represent the sandstone that's been weathered, those holes and all these curved edges, probably from an underground tunnel at one time. And the rest, particularly the jagged stuff, probably just fractured limestone that fractures once it's exposed to the light of day and weathering and erosion. Up on top here where the breeze flows through, and it's probably a little bit cooler than down below on to my left that I've just climbed up. We find corn and chilies, of course South American chilies, they all are. Here a pretty stone has been found and purposely laid there, I'm positive, as an artistic and aesthetic reflection. And of course, unbeknownst to me, here is a pathway for getting up to the top, as opposed to the kind of torturous way that I climbed up through those terraces, working very hard to avoid stepping on any plants. And the village is off to our left here, downhill. This hole is telling, I believe, because I think it's a pocket of dirt deposited over here over the eons in these rocks on the face of this karst peak, and it'll be mined, if you will, and then moved downhill into these various terraces. And perhaps because it's volcanic, it's rich, perhaps it contains ingredients and nutrients that have been blown here over the centuries or longer, and so it may be a very fertile soil, plus what they can bring up here themselves to add to that richness. And these look like perfectly designed catch basins to trap rainwater, and they're even more so with the plastic, because it'll prevent it from seeping down through what's probably a very porous rock system. Notice there's also some tubing here that's used to using gravity to move water from some of these catch basins down into the pool, and probably from the pool down into some of the terraces. I wonder what percentage of the agricultural production of China is in this context of very small, rugged, hard, labor-intensive, maintained plots, as opposed to the more easily flat areas in the central eastern part of China. There. Okay. Notice how he looks just like a leaf.